The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Chasing Purpose. I'm your host, Kathleen Conner. And if this is your first time here today, I'm glad you found your way in, and I hope you stay a while. If you've been here before, well, welcome back. As you can tell today, I'm a little under the weather, but this is important to me, and I hope it's important to you, so I showed up anyway, as we always have to do. I had a great topic planned for today about heads or tails and what to do when we have to make a decision. And not only do we wait for the right decision, but we have to make the decision right for us. But I'm going to shelve that one today because it's a powerful message, and I don't have the power in my voice or in my energy today to deliver it with the impact that I think you and it deserves. So I'm going to shelve it to next week, and hopefully I'll be 100%. But today I want to talk about what happens when we're not 100%. So as most of us experienced this year, January was a long month. It seemed like the 31 days took forever to get there and to go pass through. It was a month of dark and cold days and really gray skies. And that was really impactful. And it just seemed like every day dragged as well as the emotions dragged. I just couldn't get my energy or my feelings or the capacity that I wanted to throughout the month of January. And when February came around, I couldn't believe how quick it went. I know it's the shortest month of the year, but my goodness, it just flashed by. So I had a lot of emotional things happen in February that I want to share with you. It was an anniversary of my mom's death. She died 3 years ago on the 8th. And that was impactful for me. And I felt a melancholy and certainly felt a sympathy to not having her in my life anymore. So that was hard. That week was hard for me. And I went through it with grace and with compassion, and I felt my feelings. So I always say that, feel your feels. And anybody that's been through counseling, like I have decades of it, it's important for us to feel our feelings when we have them and not to repress them. So February was that kind of month. It was a month of tears and expression and a little bit of just kind of sorrow and, just like I said, some homesickness. So as February moved through, I often find myself, when I get to that place of kind of maybe wobbly or shaky emotions or things that I at least know what they're from, because again, through therapy, we realize that we experience our feelings at the time that they come and we know why they're there. So I knew what I was feeling on, but after I feel those feelings, and I think many of us do, we often find ourselves that not only does our body cleanse with emotions and our tears and our thoughts and all of those things, but afterwards we need to decompress. And if we don't, which I didn't, I had a busy month career-wise and personally as well, that you often get signals from the universe and from the guides that say, no, we're going to slow you down. So that's what happened to me. I ended up getting sick, and I'm a good week into this crud that I've been carrying around, and it's in the environment and it's in the school systems. My son's been home with it as well. And so I really took this time. I used to get mad and angry when I was sick or, disappointed that it happened at bad times. But now I look at it and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn with this time? What is my body telling me and my mind and my spirit want me to know? And it wants me to pause. So that's what's happening with me. I've spent a lot of time reflecting. I've spent a lot of time sleeping. And it's amazing how much time you sleep and how much time you spend by yourself, isolating from others because you don't want them to get sick. And yet you still wake up feeling that fog or that veil over your body and your mind. And you still feel like, God, it's just not enough sleep that I have. So I take this as a pause, and I reflect on what I do want to learn and what my body and my mind and my spirit is telling me. And I hope that you will too when you have these moments. So over the last 7 days, I've been coughing. I've had a fever. Today is my first day without a fever through the whole time. And I tend to present with any illness with a pretty high fever when it comes. And that's very draining too. So I tend to to take a lot of baths, take a lot of showers, and change my pajamas quite often. So, and I tend to still function. I'm still a mom and I still run a household and still have a life. So I still have to participate in things. So I can't stop, and neither of us, and neither can anyone stop, especially moms and wives and business owners and leaders and professional women. We just can't stop when we're sick. So our body has to just slow us down when our mind and our spirit doesn't. And that's what's happened to me. So I've taken this time and I've reflected. I've done a lot of journaling when I've been sick. I don't watch a lot of TV. Tried to binge watch a couple things, and it's just not there for me right now. Mentally, I just don't have the capacity to focus. But I have really done my morning papers still. I do that every morning. I started this year. So I'm a good couple months into that, and I enjoy that process as well. But what I really want to do with this is just talk about why we tend to have our bodies shut down so that we can reflect and process things that we might be going through. And I think this did start with kind of that long, drawn out January that went so slow for me. And I'm sure for everybody, it seemed like it was 365 days through those 31 at the beginning of the year. And it just seemed like everything was just elongated. All of the emotions, all of the days, the good times and the bad times seemed to be there in a very long drawn out process. And then February, like I said, was a blink of the eye. So with things and time comes a lot of reflection when we're not feeling well. And when we spend some time, I hope we can, wondering why our body shuts down. And I often think about this, things that triggered me prior to reflecting and really raising my emotional baseline and maybe my emotional maturity. Things I thought about, like when I was going someplace and we were in a hurry and we get caught behind every Sunday driver on a Tuesday or Thursday afternoon, and they're slowing us down, or we tend to hit every red light on the way to our destination. I used to get frustrated with that. It used to really tick me off. It was one thing that really I never grew up with a temper, never grew up with a quick word or two, but it used to really gnaw on me, and it doesn't anymore. I find myself asking, I think since my father died, which has been 20 years this year, that I ask my father and say, okay, Daddy, what's my lesson here? And I think that's when those things happen and I get caught at every red light, or I get caught behind a driver that's slower than I want to be, that I often now pause and say, what am I supposed to be doing? Someone's teaching me a lesson around patience or around steadiness or around not being triggered by those things. So this is one of those moments when your body shuts down or your mind shuts down or you just have that fog or veil over you that comes to mind when things like that happen we don't have control over. I'm a pretty healthy person, I believe. I go to the gym very often, almost every day, if not a couple times. Well, let's say I do go every day, and then a couple nights during the day I meet with a personal trainer. So I work hard and my diet is pretty healthy. So when I get sick, I often reflect like, wow, what is going on? What did I catch? But this cold or this whatever crud I call it, I actually felt it come on. I actually felt it, and I've only felt this one or two other times in my life. One was in an airplane, and one was traveling as well, but back east with my family. And I felt like this veil come over my body, like just a heaviness, and you kind of feel yourself breathing in whatever virus it is or whatever thing. And I thought, oh, here it is. And I was at a school function for my son. He's an upcoming freshman this year. And so I was at the high school listening to what his requirements are and what my requirements are as a parent, and sitting in that auditorium with lots of people, again, safe distance from everybody, where no one was doing any kind of COVID protocol, but no one was coughing and I was being respectful. But when I sat there, I felt this veil of heaviness, this veil of virus, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get sick. And again, mind over matter. I maybe could have talked myself out of it at that point and said, no, you're not. You have a great immune system and you're strong and you're healthy and you go to the gym and you protect yourself whenever you can around these things. And but I didn't. I just said, oh, here it comes. I'm going to get sick. And before that night was over, I ended up with a sore throat. And the next day I could feel it coming on. I could feel every minute of the day, some kind of symptom, some kind of body ache, some kind of fever was starting, some kind of cold or symptomatic. Our symptoms just kind of started to present itself. So I think we have to catch those moments and have to realize that those moments can be frustrating and they can slow us down. And those often happen at times that we don't expect or don't want, certainly. But they're often times that we can just look at it and say, okay, what am I here to learn? What am I pausing? What's my body want me to hear and to feel during this time of pause? And that's what I took during this time. And as I did at the red lights now, and as I do when I'm behind a slow driver, I read a book years ago that when you're behind somebody, I grew up in the Northeast, and anybody that spends any time in the Northeast knows that people are pretty aggressive back there, especially in driving. And there's a lot of horns that honk when you're back east. That's how people communicate when they're driving, although they do often use their middle finger as well. So I grew up in a very defensive and aggressive driving environment. And I live out west now, and people out here don't honk the horns. It's great, it's refreshing, and it's often nice to see. And I was behind a car, and I read in a book one time that this car sat at the red light. This was probably prior to the cell phones, not, cell phones, but as we were using them in every red light. And this woman just sat there by herself. And several years later, I read a book, and it was about a cancer patient. Part of it was anyway, one of the characters, and in the back of her window of her car one day, she had written a sign because she had tended to pause at red lights often and just kind of in a fog, whether for her own treatment or for her own emotions or for things that were going on and passing through her life. She sat there longer sometimes than she should have, and she often again had the horns honk to her to get her to move and get her to be back focused on her driving instead of her thoughts and her emotions. And she had a sign in the back window that said, "Be kind. I'm a cancer patient, and I have deep thoughts." And I thought that that was very refreshing to hear in the book. And I remember it, obviously, it's probably been 20 years or so, that it still probably catches me when I see somebody at a red light. We're often on our phones on red lights, but we're often still dealing with something. We may be dealing or drifting through thoughts, and we have to be kind and graceful and show, awareness that, not everybody but ourselves is influencing our lives, right? So we have to just take the moment and say, like, oh, they deserve a little extra time, and they deserve a little bit of extra patience and grace while they're, dealing with whatever they're dealing with. Even if they are checking an email, then maybe they have a crisis at work or a crisis at home that they have to deal with at that time. So I think those things make me realize and make me pause, like I am doing now, with kind of a moment of, what am I here to learn, and what is this cold or this crud here to teach me, and why am I pausing? And a couple things I think it is. It's teaching me that I really do and really felt my mom's passing the anniversary this year, and that was a good thing, that I was able to, and I am able to share some great moments with her, as I had as memories and great experiences. But I do long for her. I do long for her in my life, and I long for her voice and her presence and her, I was going to say wisdom, but with my mother it came as opinions, so that wasn't always something that I longed for. But it often makes me realize that after something like that, when we cleanse our body with emotions, that we often have to cleanse our body physically as well. And that's what's happening to me now. I believe that it's just a moment of kind of cleansing and pausing and saying, okay, you need to rest. You went through some hard times and some difficult, moments during that week or couple days or whatever it was that I processed her death. And now your body needs to say, okay, now it's my turn to catch up to the rest. Now it's my turn to have my mind and my body and my spirit settle down a little bit. And we often look at colds like they're frustrating, or illnesses that they come at a bad time. But this one I actually feel like came at a good time, because it's allowing me to pause. It's allowing me to finish out. I know it's March, but it's allowing me to really finish out the month of February that went by so quickly with these feelings. And I feel like I can get ready for the next phase of my life. I'm excited for the next phase of my life. I'm excited for what I have to bring and what I offer to you all. And that's my own stories and my own experiences. And some of those come with pain, and some of those come with certainly celebration and heartache and warmth, and certainly a lot of grace. So we're going to get there together. But right now, I'm going to just pause, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me and what happens when I get sick. So when I get sick, you know, I often try to rush it. We try to just move on. We try to deal with things, but not this time. I ended up really pausing and I ended up protecting myself. And I ended up really isolating myself from others to protect them from the illness that I have, but also myself. Protect myself because I knew that I wasn't in a good emotional place to deal with a lot of decisions or to deal with a lot of frustrations that may happen or a lot of triggers that may happen. So I isolated myself. I still dealt with things. I still have a son that I take care of him and the house and my life and his activities and all of those things. I still am a participative mom and caring and kind. But I did take this opportunity, and I do take this opportunity to look at it and say, what am I learning here? What does my body want me to hear and to know? And I think it's that I was moving too fast through my exercises and through my life and through my diet and wanted me to just kind of settle back and just take moments. And with my morning journal, it wasn't about goals and it wasn't about what I was going to accomplish that day. It was like, what was I healing from? What was my body wanting me to know? And what was my thought process just telling me that I needed to slow down? And I think that that was important. And I think it's important as women that we do that. And it's unfortunate that it happens often when we get a cold or we get sick, but we should take these times and figure out why we have them, figure out how we can get through them as quickly as possibly, and also just kind of help ourselves to how we deal with our own self care. So, how I've been dealing with it is one, I've been sleeping and resting a lot, that's for sure. And when I don't feel like I can push myself, I don't. I still just stay centered and stay protected. And when I can't get into conversations that may be triggering or thoughts or things that I don't have the energy for, I say, I just can't do it. Like today, this is a perfect example. The podcast that I had scheduled for you, and the topic was very powerful, and it was going to really be impactful to not only you to hear it, but me to deliver it. And I just didn't feel like I had it in me today. So I want to give you everything I can when I'm 100%. And today I'm not. When somebody asks me how I am when I feel this way, I'm very precise. I often say I'm 68.6% or 73.2% or whatever the percentage is, because I think it's important for everybody to know that I can't be 100% all the time, although I want to and I want to strive for that. I'm at least heading in the right direction. So today, my percentage is probably, I would say about 77.6%, and not very much higher than it was yesterday. And I know that after this and this time with you today, which I appreciate y'all showing up here, I will probably knock back off and go isolate myself again and rest for the rest of the day and try to take care of myself, because I feel like I'm just turning the corner on this. And I hope that if I continue to reflect and take care of myself and drink lots of fluids and take a little bit of medicine, maybe over the counter type stuff, but that I can push through it. Maybe tomorrow I'll be that 80% or that 82 or and get myself to 100% hopefully by the weekend. But those types of things, I think as women, we don't often do. We push through until we get sick, and we push through until we don't know, that we have to take care of ourselves first. And I think as moms, we do that a lot. We often take care of our sons. My son came home sick a couple days ago because he wasn't feeling well. He started with this, and I think I caught it from him as well. He had a little bit of different symptoms, but I think it kind of was going around the community. And again, I felt it that night at the high school auditorium come layering on top of me. So, I think that we have to realize that when our body and our minds tell us to shut down and we don't, like when my mom's anniversary came up and I still pushed through things and I still, cried out, cried off quite often, and I was wobbly through that time period, that I should have rested more and I should have really taken care of myself then. And I didn't choose to. I still went to the gym and I still went to work every day and attended meetings and client stuff and all of those things. But now I think my body's saying, you didn't do it all the way. You did it with your heart, but now you need to do it for your heart and your mind and your soul. So that's what's happening with me this week, is that the three things are aligning themselves into a rest period. So as I move through, I do the best I can. So I've taken a lot of baths. I've taken a lot of sleep and a lot of rest, and I've I'm not a person that's like that. I'm usually very high energy and I don't spend a lot of time sleeping. When I do sleep, I sleep really well, but I'm an early riser and we were raised that way as kids. We never had an alarm clock. I don't ever remember my parents having any kind of alarm clock in the house, even when they were, came out as gadgets or as nightstand items. I don't ever remember that. We were just always up pretty early as kids and as a family. Certainly before 7 o'clock, we didn't sleep. Um, Past that, even as teenagers, when our bodies wanted us to have more sleep, we didn't. So I'm always up early, and even with this, I'm still up early. I get up about 4:30 in the morning. I have my first cup of coffee, certainly by 4 or 5 or 5 o'clock. And I still am doing that, but I tend to with this tend to crash a little bit during the day, or I tend to rest a little bit. And it doesn't mean taking a nap. I'm not a nap person, but it does mean just kind of settling into a quiet room or a quiet space where I can again, the word reflect keeps coming back to me, but recoup and recover from whatever the symptoms that I have. And I think it again started with some emotional stuff with my mom. And if you've had a death in your family and you've had some parents transition, that's super hard. I never realized how difficult that was. You know, I wasn't ready for either one of my parents to pass. My father's been gone 20 years this year, and my mother's been gone 3. And it's something that you don't want to be that in that club, right? You don't want to be the the person, the child left parentless, but we all have to go through it. And I was fortunate enough to go through it with my siblings, and we supported each other. We became closer as siblings because of it. I wish my parents could see how close we are now after they have passed, as opposed to not that we weren't close before, but we're certainly trying to be more communicative with each other after their pass. My mother was the link for communication. We all talked to her almost every day. I know I did, if not multiple times a day, checked in with her as she aged, went through her end of life process. And so we all did that, but she was the one that gave the broadcast messages out to what was happening in our family and our lives. Like, oh, Kathleen, did you hear from da 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 da? Oh, this is happening in da 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 da. She would tell us those stories. So now we have to pick up those pieces and be communicators ourselves within our own family. So it's been a nice, kind of gift that she's given us to do that. So again, we don't often verbally talk to each other, but we do have a family or a sibling text group that we talk, and we try to get in touch with each other at least once a week, and just kind of say our hellos or root for whatever team we root for, which is back east, the Red Sox or the Celtics or the Patriots, of course. So that's what we try to do. Part of that as well. So, so those are things that we can try to do through our lives, is to just, when we get knocked down emotionally, that we try to catch ourselves physically as well at the same time, so that we don't have a delay and an illness or a delay in some kind of symptoms that sneak up a week or two later, like I feel like I did have. So my mom's death was the 8th of February, and today is March 3rd. And this I've had for about 7 days, like I said. So the end of February it came on, and probably so 2 weeks after her her anniversary passed, I started with the symptoms, and I think it was all co-related. It was related to kind of how I was pushing through the emotions, or I felt the emotions, but I was really pushing through it on a physical level. I just wouldn't let myself really rest during that time period, and I just didn't. It just pushed myself, I think, a little bit more physically. And again, it's spring, winter-ish here, so there are a lot of viruses going around, and we've had some temperate weather where I am, so we haven't had the cold snaps that come in my belief, that come in and kill the germs like they should. So I think there's some things lingering around as well. But I'm happy to be here today. I don't have the topic that I did want to have for you. I will have it next week. But the main thing that I want you to all reflect on is that we still need to show up, even if we're not 100% within any relationship. And I feel like this is my showing up to my relationship that I have with you. And I think that we started with, hey, I'm not 100%. And that's what we have to do within any relationship with my son or anybody, or work life, or personal relationships, or any of that. We have to say, I can't have this conversation because I'm not feeling well, not 100%.
or after this, I'm going to have to take a break and be in an office environment like I am right now and give myself some grace to spend some time by myself and just kind of heal both physically and mentally and emotionally that I have going on right now. So I think that it's important to learn from this that it's okay to still be able to show up when we're not 100%, to acknowledge it, to tell people outright that we're not 100%. They can't expect you to have the capacity emotionally or physically or whatever you usually do. And it's nice to just ask for some grace. I think grace is important in any environment, but especially today. And if you listened to my episode last week with Wendy, that was super fun to do. And she'll be back again in a couple of weeks or so. I'm going to try to have her on once a month or every other month if it works calendar wise. And I talked about grace, and that was one of the things that I was really striving for, was to perform every day in every relationship and every conversation by not only giving someone grace, but asking for it as well. And I don't need to come out every day and be like, hey, come on, give me some grace, or I'm going to give you grace. It's not a competition. But being more able to pause and to be less triggered with things, and to kind of just be okay that I don't have to solve everything, and I don't have to certainly control or manipulate a situation or someone else's feelings or the topics, or try to convince them of anything and they don't need to do that with me either, right? So the first thing that I can control is my reaction, and where I give, hopefully, if I want to, my power and my time, right? So those are the only things that I can control, is my power and my time. So grace is important. But Wendy said that one of the things that she always makes decisions about is around delight. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's great. And I did think of it, delight and that word, I don't think it's great, but it's not a word I would use a lot. It's not probably one I even use 5 times a year. So I was trying to think after and during our conversation and my conversation with Wendy, what word and what choice would I make? Because grace is always going to be there for me. It's a word that I feel and an emotion that I feel, and something that needs to be given and received more often than it does right now, especially in our society and what's going on. But I often think like, oh, I want grace and something. It doesn't have to be this or that. So I've been giving a lot of thought. Maybe you guys can too. Give some thought to what word or emotion describes what you want. So is it joy? Maybe that's a better word. Or passion. Purpose is certainly one, but it's so subjective of what that means. But I also think, as we talked about before in other episodes about, with the episode with Wendy, it's about happiness versus satisfaction. So, but with satisfaction and happiness comes different emotions, right? So joy is probably a good word that I would use. So when I make decisions, then I want to think about how much joy they bring me, how much laughter. My son has a great circle of friends, and I often had talked to him a lot about the characteristics of his friends and the characteristics of things that he sees when he visits his friends' houses. So I have to say, tell me about them, tell me about this. And then I'm preparing him for his life and his journey with his relationships. And I often think of that he'll be great because he's had these experiences with these other families. And he describes one of the kids' fathers as being cool, like just calm. He always says, Mom, there's nothing that gets this man upset. And it's not a challenge. Of course, they're teenagers and they don't mean to, and they certainly don't want to upset their parents. He says, oh, but this guy, he's just really even keeled. And he said, I haven't seen him have any kind of emotion other than just kind of a sullen approach. And I was like, is he boring? That's of course that's what I ask, and Chase would say, no, he's not boring. It's not a boring. It's just that he has a calm presence, that it's soothing. I would say that he would say, and I think that that's great too. To hear a teenager describe a friend's father as soothing or as calm, and that it's about his presence. He talked to me about his body language and how he's just, he just has this calm presence when he walks in his room and to the room, and when Chase talks to him and when he talks to the kids. I think that's nice that my son experiences those things. And another father that he talks about when I ask him about his friends, he says, this guy is so joyful. He's so exuberant is the word that my 13-year-old son would say. And I said, wow, is that like, is it because he
is like a peacock or a rooster and wants to shine and show with himself within the room. And he said, no, it's not about ego. He just has a great level of energy and he just comes in with so much joy and happiness. And so I think it's great that my son at this age, and I hope it continues throughout his whole life, is realizing that people have an impact when they can walk in a room, when they can greet kids, when they can be around other people, and how important that is. And I haven't yet asked him, but I will, like how his friends would describe me, and what characteristics they would see in me and what characteristics he would see in me. I think he sees me as somebody that he knows that he can talk to and tell me anything. And I hope that always continues. And that, being a business person and professional, as most women are as well, we deal with a lot of stuff. And I tell my son, it's not a challenge. It's certainly not a challenge. I tell him this, that there's not anything that he would tell me that I probably haven't heard before. I've had a lot of employees in my life and I've managed a lot of people. So things, I hope, again, it's not a challenge. I hope that he never tells me something that I will be astonished or surprised with. I hope that if there's ever a time that he tells me something, that I would receive it with grace and process it that way as well, and in a very non-judgmental way. So I hope maybe those are the characteristics that he'd say about me. Maybe he would use the word grace, or maybe I should ask him how he would describe me, and maybe he'll tell me the word that I'm looking for, that I'm struggling to find myself, the joy, the delight, those types of things. So I think it's impactful that, we often talk to our kids and we often talk to the people that are around us that we love and see what they find in us and what they find in themselves, and how they would help process things and emotions. But I think it's impactful that we know that other people know how we walk in our room and how we present ourselves and how we are, they feel, right? That's very important. When I was pregnant with Chase, I did a parenting class, and maybe some of you have taken it as well, called Love and Logic. I think I've taken it 2 or 3 times through the years. And it was a great course on if you can prepare yourself for parenting. That was one way to do it. And I got close to the instructor. It was through a church that I attended as well. And I really liked this gentleman. He was very impactful for me on a lot of levels. And I asked him for parenting advice. What would he tell me as a first time mom? I was an older mom, and so I was experiencing things for the first time at an older age. I was 43 when I had Chase, and so I asked him. I said, "Tell me some parenting advice that you would give me." And he said, "When your child wakes up in the morning, greet them with joy, greet them with emotion, greet them with high energy, because it'll set their mood for their day. Your moods set their moods for the day." So I think that that's important. And I think that's what my son is saying when he's at these friends' houses and the parents come in, the mothers and the fathers, and he spends time with them. And then I ask him, days or weeks later, like, "Hey, tell me about your time there. Tell me what that was like. How was that experience? How did, tell me about your conversations." And he comments about the energy, or about the father or the mother, and how they came into the room, or how they spent time with him, or the eye contact. I'm always asking him, like, how was your eye contact? Today he's meeting somebody for the first time, a relationship that I've had through the community that I live in, and he's meeting somebody, one of the adults from the community, outside of our community. And I talked to him this morning. I said, when you meet him, obviously you're always respectful and do that. I said, eye contact, firm handshake, and good body language. And he'll bring that with him as well. Now, I don't always have that, and I certainly don't probably have great eye contact today, or I know that I wouldn't want to shake anybody's hand, that's for sure. But I think it's important that we have those lessons and we think about the things and why we're pausing. So back to this illness, which I hope next week I'll be able to present to you in a stronger and more confident way. And not that I'm lacking confidence, I'm just lacking really energy, if anything, and a voice a little bit.
that that we have to still show up, and we have to show up for our kids, and we have to show up. I would have been great to just stay in my pajamas today and stay in bed underneath an electric blanket and just kind of have one more day, one more time to just rest and reflect, but I couldn't. I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want to let myself down. This is an important connection for me to have with you all, and I hope that you find it important and impactful as well. So I have to just say, as most women and most people need to do, is we have to push through it. So it's okay to show up when we're not 100% and to acknowledge it and say, I'm just not feeling it. Just not here today to give you everything that I can. I mean, I can try. It won't last, that's for sure. And I know after this, after the 50 minutes that I spend with you, that I'll be drained. This is a lot for me. This is probably the most I've talked to anybody in 7 days or so, because of my voice and my ability to really be on my game. So bear with, give people grace, respect what your body and your mind is telling you when you're having a hard time. And when your emotions come up, feel them, but feel them not only in your heart like I did, and through tears like I did, and through memories like I did with my mom's passing and her anniversary and stuff. But also remember that, yeah, your body needs to catch up on those things. So when you feel sadness, or you feel unbalanced, wobbly as I call it, and you feel whatever feelings those are, that it's okay and it's great to feel them through tears and through some emotions. But it's also, your body needs to catch up too. So give yourself some grace and take those baths and ease into the day, or ease into your time. And it's okay to pull out a journal or a notebook and say, I just have to pause right now, and I can't give you everything that I need to, even though, as moms or as wives or as in business leaders, that we often do, we often try to show up and give it all until boom, our bodies do shut down. So I will respect and appreciate that my body is asking me to rest right now, and I certainly don't want to push it as much as I do. As much as I have in the past, I will often, like the red lights that I stop at when I don't want to, or the slower car that I get behind, or someone that I should back east be honking my horn at. I will give them grace, as I will ask for myself to have some grace right now, and not be quick to move, or quick to try to recoup when I'm not ready, and just kind of ease into things. So I think that's all we can ask of ourselves, and to make sure that, as my son does, watch our energy, even when we don't have a lot of it, and how we walk into the rooms, and how we present with everybody, because I think, especially our kids, they're watching us. They're watching our behavioral patterns and our body language and our tone and our shoulders. I often say to my son, drop your shoulders, because when we're stressed, I found myself when I was back home and not in a good place with my mom or my family, and my shoulders would be up. I would be so tense. My shoulders would kill me at the end of the day, or when I was stressed out at work or with other relationships. I would often have high shoulders, because you don't want to drop them down, because that was your guard, right? You kept them up. And so I often say to my son, like, shoulders down, head up, shoulders down, chest out, march forward. And I know that he thinks those things are silly. And as he moves through his teenage years, I become even more annoying and less silly. But as I tell him, like, when he's older and he has his own kids, he'll remember these things, as I did with my mom. I remember the things that she said, even though I didn't like him at the time. And I remembered my dad. He was a lot more compassionate with his words and his tone. So I remember those things. And I wish I knew now what I knew then, when my father was alive and my mother was vibrant throughout her life. I wish I knew her. One of my mother's favorite jobs, the favorite job that she had, other than being a mom and a wife, was that she was a window dresser. You never hear that term anymore. She was a window dresser for the local department store in our area. And so she dressed the windows every week, not only in fashion, but also in home styles. And she loved that. And she took a lot of those style touches and skills that she always had throughout her life into our house. And she was proud of the house that she developed and had with us as kids and as a family. When we were, let's see, she built the house. They built the house in 1957. That time she had 3 kids. already, and probably was pregnant with her fourth. She had one of the home magazines from New York come to our house or come to the area and take pictures of our house. And my mom was proud of that moment, and we still have them now. I have her scrapbook and the photo album from the magazine that was taken during that photo shoot. And she was very proud of her house, of course, because they came from nothing, and it was a lot for them to build a house. If they did it themselves, my father and his brothers built it on a piece of property that my grandfather had given them, and they worked hard on it, and they were very proud of it, and she loved her house. And so those are things that we have to respect, as just the little things as well. And again, I have great memories of my childhood in that house. The house is still in my family, and I still get to, fortunate enough to still visit it when I go back east and see a sibling there enjoying it as well. So those are things that we have to, I don't know why that came in. Maybe my mind was thinking about my mom and the house and all of that stuff. But yeah, we have to think about the ways that we walk into a room and that we present ourselves. It doesn't have to be a room. It can be an elevator. It can be anything. I talked to somebody about the runway and the plank metaphor I had in one of my podcasts. If you didn't listen to it, find it again. You can find it on YouTube just by searching under Chasing Purpose. All of my episodes are there. You can certainly go to my website. I can have one-on-one time with you as well. But if you think about the runway and the plank, they're about moving in the same direction, right? Forward. You're on a runway and you're going forward. You're showing, you're walking forward in the direction that's ahead. And the same with the plank, but you're doing it in two different ways. One with confidence and with strength and with purpose, and the other one probably more with fear. That plank thing. And a woman that I had a conversation with, a client that I had a conversation with, uh, she didn't, she kept going back to the Italy or the fashion show runways. And I said, a runway can be your kitchen threshold. It can be how you present yourself when you're getting your coffee and you're walking from one room to the other. It's that runway, it's that forward progress that we can do it with confidence, and that our own energy and our kids feel it, people around us feel it, the people that we love and that we work with feel our energy when we walk into a room. We know it, right? We know when we walk into a house or into a room, and our spouse or our partner or our parents or our siblings or whoever is there, or even a coworker, we can feel their energy. We know what we're up against, right? We know that, if they're in a bad mood, you're going to feel it. If they're in a good mood, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel the intent of what their body language wants you to feel. And it's important for us to know that our body language has that purpose as well in our energy. So we have to really look at it when we're 100% and we give it our all, and what energy we want to lay out there, but also when we're not 100%, when we're like me today, 77.2% of how I feel today. Maybe that was a little earlier. I feel a little less than 77% now, but that I still know my energy is there. I still know when my son comes home from school today that I still want to, be present for him and want to show him somebody who's loving and kind, even though I'm not 100% myself. And I know that he and I would want his friends to describe me in a way that he would describe his friends' parents as. And that's with joy, with compassion, with calmness. It's just great. And so, if you have children or people in your life, ask them what they see in people, ask them what they feel when someone walks in a room and what they hear. And I think you'll be surprised at how much people pick up and how much we we project ourselves energy wise and feelings wise, that we don't often do that. I think body language is important. I often see people with their arms crossed, of course, standing on whatever, in whatever room, in whatever environment. And it's such a closed off language that, man, that's what we're comfortable with. We're comfortable with being closed off. We're comfortable, um, I don't know, presenting ourselves in a different way, that we don't realize how much energy and how much time and vibration we are projecting. So if we just open up our body a little bit more, we drop our shoulders, as I said, we keep our head high and our chest out. I bet people around us would feel that. I bet kids around us would certainly feel that. And I that their energy and their environment would feel that differently as the parenting advice that I had when I was pregnant with my son was, when he wakes up, the first thing you say to him, the first thing he sees is you in high energy. You greet him with a voice and a tone, with a high energy. It doesn't mean screaming. It doesn't mean celebrating. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. But he does get the good morning, he does get the enthusiasm. And I am happy to see him because I am. Every day with him is precious. And that's not going to last forever as he ages and he goes off and becomes more interdependent and chooses his own life and his own path. I'm excited to see that happen. But as moms, we know that it comes with a cost of that we're proud of them and what we've taught them, what they need to do. We're the bow, they're the arrow, so we just pull back and let them fly. But it is going to be a bittersweet moment for me, as it is for everybody. Even dads out there, I'm sure, feel a little bit of twinge of maybe lonesomeness. My mother explained that when my father died for years. She was 17 years without my father, living in the same house in the same community. Without him, she lived 17 years past him. And she always said that people didn't understand that she wasn't lonely. My mother had friends. My mother had things to do. She kept a busy schedule, and she'd like to get out of the house and do her things, decorate and have things to do and keep herself and her mind busy. But she always said she was so lonesome that people didn't understand the difference between being lonely and lonesome. And as she aged and I saw her body and her mind and her emotions kind of wane on her, I understood it. I understood the difference between being lonely and lonesome. But she didn't long for people or companionship. Maybe she did at the end because she wanted us around more. But she certainly missed having my father's presence. She was lonesome for company. She was lonesome for him and for the love they had together. So it wasn't her being lonely, because I think she was comfortable with herself. I think my mother was never afraid to be alone. She knew what that was like and had 17 years of it, of us kids stopping by all the time or being in her life, grandkids or other family members. We lived in a community, a generational community, where we always had, she had siblings around her all the time on the street, and certainly had other people that she relied on through community and through church as well. But she always said that there was a difference. And what she first said, and I never understood the difference between lonely and lonesome. But now I did. But when she, because I saw her explain it, and I saw her go through it. I saw that how she kept herself busy all of her 91 years, how she kept her mind and her body busy doing things that she loved to do, but that she was lonesome. And there was a difference. And people don't talk about that as much. So maybe we'll get into them in a different episode as well. Anyway, I want to just go back to today, and I appreciate your presence today, and I appreciate your grace in giving it to me today. I'm not 100%, and you can hear that, and you know that with how I am presenting myself, but I'm 100% here for you, and that's what's important, that I still showed up today, as we all have to, and I'm grateful, and I'm so glad that you showed up today for yourself. And we're going to learn together. We're going to do lots of things. So I want to thank you for listening today. And thank you very much for showing up today in an unexpected topic. Next week will be great. I'll present it with a lot more passion and tone that it deserves than I had today. But I want to just tell you that I am grateful for you. I'm grateful, and I'm glad you're here to listen. So until next time, I will see you next time. And until then, keep chasing purpose. It's important. I appreciate you. Take care.